Okay. All right, so this is what we had from last time. And what we were doing was we were showing how Pattrstorage, how you can set queues in Pattrstorage. So go ahead and you probably didn't save your storage Pattrstorage queues from last time. So let's make some new ones real quick. So let's start with all the sliders down, and we'll store this as Q0. So just leave this as 0 and go ahead and click store. Then go ahead and change all your sliders to something else. I think I'm going to do a stair step to start off with. And I'm going to change my movies to something else. And now I'm going to change this to 1 and now store this under 1. And if you open up your storage window, you should see now that you have queues for 0 and 1, right? But what we didn't do is we didn't change this is our playback rate. We need to put labels on this stuff because we don't know what it is. But I remember this is our playback rate, and with a playback rate of 0, our movies aren't going to actually play. So let's go back and fix that. Change all those to 1. Now you can go ahead and just store over your 0. So take this to 0. Oh, actually, you're going to want to recall the Q0 first. Otherwise, you'll still have the sliders in their current positions. So what you can do is just recall 0. Boom, there it is. Okay, now I can change these all to 1 rate. And now restore over that. Now I can recall 1. And now change the rates to 1. And now change this to 1 and store over that. So now we've updated that queue. Now let's write another queue. So let's go ahead. I'm going to do like the opposite stair step, I think, for this queue. And I'll store this. I'm just going to leave my rates at 1 the whole time. Store this under 2. And then something else on 3.
Actor or whatever you want to call it be
object
to turn the integer that is currently tracking our queue number into like a U menu, so you can click it and select 1 through 7. You know what I mean? Instead of having to click it and type, click and see a drop down menu.
U menu.
Don't do it. Right.
You just said it. You said it in your question. You said, "What's the object like U menu?"
How U menu works.
Okay, so U menu. You can add to U menu in many different ways. You can either use this append message. So I could say append 1, 2, append 3, and that would add it to the list. It would add it to the bottom of the list sequentially. Or you can just go in there and specify what you want by under the things going to menu items and say edit. And then you can put in your items here separated by commas. Q1, Q2, Q3. We did this in the last in 8.1, I believe. We had a system like this using on call, and then you can have labels there, but the first output of this U menu actually gives you a number, and you can use that number, right? Because that's a 0, that's a 1, and this is a 2. So I could use that number to recall those down here if I wanted to. But that doesn't make sense for the system that we're building today.
Sure.
All right. What were we doing? We were looking at our storage window. So now that we have 4 queues stored, we can step through those, remember, by going either hopping directly to the queue by sending a recall message with an integer. So I could say recall 3. and send that to Pattrstorage, and that would recall Q3, right? So it jumps directly to the queue if you send it an integer. If you send it a float, it'll also jump to the queue, but if you make that float go between like two, if you send it a float value that's a whole number, it will jump directly to that queue. But if you send it like a 2.5, it'll do an interpolation between Q2 and Q3. That's Q2.5 in its mind. So let's try that. We can just, right here, there's a float box attached to this recall. So if I set this to Q2, say, now if I just increment this float box by dragging it slightly, you can see it start to interpolate between Q2 and Q3. Okay, all right. Now what we can do with this, what if we want to automate this? Like we want this, we don't want to have to, obviously we don't want it to have to scroll between 2 and 3 with our mouse. We want the objects to do that automatically, to make that number slide up and down. There's a couple different ways you could do that, but probably the easiest way is to use what's called a line object. Line, if you open up the help file for line, this says it generates a timed ramp. Where did my mouse go? It generates a timed ramp. So what that means is, so this, go ahead and click on this button here, and you can see it goes from 50 to 150 over 1,000 milliseconds. And you can see that number ramp up. We can use that functionality to make our slider move, right? By default, line wants to work with integers, but you can set it to float by giving it a float argument. So if we say line 0, which is that's its initial number, if I put a period after that 0, then it'll set it up for float. Grain, that has to do with like, what does that have to do with? Grain is sets the output interval. Output interval in milliseconds. The default is 20 milliseconds. I hardly ever change that. That has to do with, so as it's ramping between 0 and 1, it's going to be putting out a float value every 20 milliseconds on that ramp. Does that make sense? I usually just leave it at the default 20 milliseconds. So with line 0, if you sent this one message, like a number 1 period, say, what it's going to do is it's going to hop directly to that number. That's the way line works. When it gets a message, if it gets a number, it's going to go directly to that number. If you give it 2 numbers, like so now I'm at 1, if I give it 2 period and then an integer, which is like 5,000, the first number is where it's going. The second number is how long it takes to get there. So this should, in milliseconds. So this should give me going between 1 and 2 in 5 seconds. Okay, but when you send it 2 arguments like that, that's dependent on where it currently is. So if I sent this message again, it wouldn't do anything because it's going between 2 and 2 in 5 milliseconds. That doesn't go anywhere, right? So we actually want to send it 3 arguments, which is first go to 0 period, comma, and then go from 2, and then go to 2 or 1 or whatever value. Let's start with 1. So first it's going to hop straight to 0, right? And then we have a comma to separate that out into a second message, where then it will go to 1 over 5 seconds. So this should go from 0 to 1 in 5 seconds. Make sense? Questions? You look confused, Shay.
Mine is, I think, just waiting. Can you click yours again? Let me see what it looks like. Look at the bars, yeah. Okay. Mine. I don't see the progression. It just changes.
All right, so that probably has to do with your the queues that you've stored. You probably haven't stored different values on your queues. Take a look at the mult channel A mult value on your when you open up your storage windows. You should have different values across Q1, Q0, Q1, Q2.
I'm saying it changes, but it changes all at once after 5 seconds.
Okay, did you put a line 0 period?
Yep.
It changes all at once.
Mm-hmm.
All right, open up your client window. What do you have under interp on all of those?
Linear.
I don't know. I'd have to look at your patch. So these sliders are not, they're not incrementing.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have, all right, let me take a look at your patch. I think it's something simple. It might be that you open up your storage window, open up your client window. All right, so those look all right. Go to open up your storage window. Okay, your mult, you have a bunch of zeros all the way across the board. So why is that? So you've stored 0 value on all of these. So
but not 0 and 1, which is what we're going between, right?
right. So did it not? So it did.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. That's not a float. That's an integer box.
Thank you.
All right. So this number box right here has to be a float, not an integer, right? Otherwise, your float box, if it's going between 0 and 1, all it does with if you send a float value into an integer, it's going to truncate it. So it will have no value whatsoever until it gets to 1, which is why it popped at the end for his. All right, so that's cool. We can go between 0 and 1. We could go between 1. Let's do this. Go between 0 and, whoops. And how many queues did we store? 3. Go between 0, 3, 5,000. And you'll see it actually step through all of your queues one at a time. Right? Other thing, look at the movies right now. When you run this. See those movies? They're changing like in the middle of your of the queue. And I don't think we'd want that to happen, right? That's because there are some things in this patch that we don't want to interpolate. We don't want the movie file name to interpolate between Q2 and Q3. There's no such thing as a half movie, right? So, so what we can do is we can open up client window, and in this you can change what will be interpolated. So let's say on file name and rates, we don't want any interpolation. So go in and change the interpolation to none on all of your rates and file names. Okay? So I have none on these, but linear on all the mults. Okay, now let's run that queue again. And you can see that the videos don't change until the queue is complete, which is what we would want. So it fades up b-ball, then it switches to blading, then fades down. I didn't change my videos in Q3 and then or Q2, and then at the end of Q3 it changes to the Q4 videos. Okay? Is that working? Yeah? All right. So let's see. That's great if we wanted to do that. Most of the time I think in a video situation, this kind of stepping through multiple different queues probably isn't that useful when you're doing a video mixer, right? Because I don't know why you'd want to look at your videos going up and down and up and down. Maybe you want to, but this sort of thing of stepping through multiple different queues is useful if you're going to use these interpolating values to like animate stuff. So one interesting way I've seen this done is each one of these values on a slider might represent a position of a vertex, and there's like 5 different vertexes or vertices, and as these things move around, all these lines are drawn between them, and they make cool like twisting shapes, stuff like that. You can use it to morph things in 3D. That's kind of cool. All right, so if we don't want to do that, if we want to step between Q1 and 2 over 5 seconds instead of 0 to 3, what would I do? I just need to change this number, right? So if I wanted to go between 2 and 3, I send it a 2, 3, 5,000. Then it will go between Q2 and 3. What if, though, we wanted to go between Q1 and Q3, but we don't want it to do Q2? We want it to interpolate between Q1 and 3, but we don't want it to step through that interpolation of Q2. There's a way to do that in your Pattrstorage. Let's see, what do? You have to give it a multi-part message. And where the heck is my code for this? Okay. If you give, so right now we've just been recalling one argument. We're saying the message we're sending is recall followed by a number, right? Even when we're animating that, we still just have recall followed by a number, right? If you send Pattrstorage a message recall, and then you give it 3 numbers, the first one is what it's going to go to. So let's do this, $1. The second one is going to be, the first one's going to be where it's starting. The second one is going to be where it's going to. And the third variable will be the percentage of interpolation between those Qs. So if I, for example, so then we can make a pack message that will drive this message. So if I say, not a message this time, new object pack 0, 0, 0. Actually, that last one needs to be a float, so put a 0 period to make it a float. And integer float. Okay, actually make this not a pack, but a POC. Do you know POC? So you take out the C. Do you guys remember the difference between PAC and POC? Anyone? No one. Silence. It has to do with when the message is output. So in a pack, it'll only output the message if the first inlet gets a change. Doesn't matter, you can change the second and third or fifth inlet as much as you want, it's not going to output its message. POC, any of them change, it'll output the message. In this case, we're going to do most of our work with this third outlet, so we want to use a POC, or third inlet, so we want to use a POC. All right, so if we send this into the Pattrstorage, and we say we want to go between Q1 and Q4, we can now, this third one would be the percentage of that. Why isn't it working? Oh, because I'm over 1. This needs to be between 0 and 1, this last thing. So actually let's explicitly set that. Go into the parameters and minimum, put 0 period, maximum 1 period. All right, 0. Why isn't that working? That should have worked. Oh wait, do I not have a Q4? That's why, because I don't have a Q4. All right, let me try this again. Q3. There we go. So this is the percentage of interpolation between Q1 and Q3. So Q3 so if I send recall 130, that's going to be 100% of Q1. If I then make that value go to 131, it'll be 0% of Q1 and 100% of Q3. Does that make sense? So that would be how you can specify jumping between queues without stepping over the stuff in the middle, or interpolating between queues without interpolating through the values in the middle. And that's actually what we're going to do to start making our Go button. So let's do that. Do we want to do that? Yes, let's do that. So we can take this stuff and let's give ourselves some room over here on the right hand side. I'm going to move my Pattrstorage down underneath these sliders. And I'm going to take this prepend store stuff and move it all next to it. Okay. All right, we're going to build our Go button and stuff right up here. This auto pattern we can move over here too. Wait, this we don't need. Well, might as well just leave it in here for demonstration purposes, this line object, but we won't really need it after this. Okay, so what we can do now is we can create a queuing system where this is the queue that we're currently on, our start queue. This is the queue that we're going to, and this is our transition time in milliseconds that we want to do for that queue. And that's kind of the standard pieces of information that you need when you're queuing through a show. So let's make a button first for the Go button. Just make a button, make it really big. And let's see, this is a Go button. Let's make it green. It's like Oregon, University of Oregon. Okay. Now we need to pack this into a list. Actually, we got that right here. No, we don't. We want to actually pack it, then unpack it, and repack it again. So let's take this. Let's say, actually, just move this stuff up. This will be easier. Move this up. Add a oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. This is wrong. Doesn't matter, though. Leave that. We're still going to use this. We just need to make a new pack object. And we're going to pack integer, integer, integer. Oh, we're also going to pack the word go. So pack go space 000 or I. Okay. Then we have our Go button. We want a start queue, and that's going to be an integer. And now that I have those, I'll just duplicate them and make that into an end queue. And then one more time. Transition time, milliseconds. Patch that in. You can patch the go button into where the first inlet where it says go. We're just using this pack as a way of storing those values until the go button is pressed. As soon as that happens, we're going to want those values right again. So let's go ahead and just unpack this. Unpack go I or 000. Okay, we're not going to actually need this first element, that word go. We don't need the word go. But we only put it in on this pack so that we got that extra inlet. What we're going to do is this third one is our transition time, or this last outlet was our transition time, right? So we can send that into a line object. So
is it still that?
Line 0. What?
Does that last outlet belong to it? Because I thought it went backwards with a pack.
1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth element. It's our transition time. Unpack go dot 0, 0, 0.
Yeah.
Go 0, 0, and 0. Yeah. So the last one here, the fourth inlet, the fourth outlet of the unpack will be our transition time. We can use that to generate a message to have the line object ramp between yada yada and yada yada over that transition time. So let's see. Because if we're using the recall this way, where we step between this queue and this queue over whatever percentage, we only need this line to go between 0 and 1 always, no matter what queue it is. Because all we need is a ramp of a percentage from 0 to 1. So we can send it, we can send this 0 period, whoops, not O, 0 period, comma, 1 period, and then over how many milliseconds, that's our variable, right? So we pass this through there. That should make the line ramp in the number of seconds that we want, or milliseconds that we want. And then we can just repack this now with a POC 0, 0 float. Make sure that that last one is a float. Here, let's do it this way so that it's obvious. Integer, integer, float. Right? You can use actual integer numbers or the symbols representing integers or floats interchangeably in a POC message or a pack message. All right, so we can then just send this one straight through. So we're just repacking that and we're repacking that. We don't need the word go anymore. There we go. That looks nice. Okay, now we can pack this into this recall message over here. That's all we need. We don't really need this, I guess, anymore. This, or let's leave it just for demonstration purposes. Put it over here if you want. No, let's just leave it where it is. All right. So this should now be able to give us what we need. So if we're going between Q0 and Q1 in 3,000 milliseconds, if I hit go, between 0 and 1, and that took about 3 seconds. What if I want that to go a lot faster? 0 to 1 in 1,000, 1 second. Woo, much faster. I can even skip. I can go 0 to 4 in 1,000. Sorry, I don't have a Q4. 0 to 3 in 1,000. All right, is that working for everybody? Does anybody have any questions on how this works? Yours isn't working? All right, take a look. That's a huge go button. Are you covering your code with it? Okay.
Well, scroll down so I can see what's going on.
Okay.
Oh, I see. You put a G in it. I get it. That's cute. Go, unpack, go. Oh, one of those needs to be. No, you gotta be a. That's right. You wanted that, right? Okay, 0. That last one. No, that's right. Never mind. So what's happening? What's it doing when you try to recall a queue? Do you have a queue? Or do you have a Q2 stored?
I do.
Okay. And do you have a Q0 stored? Yes. And they have different values, right? In the moles. Okay, great. So that's all right. So let's figure out what's going on. Let's see. First of all, let's see the message that's being sent. So just pass in a message on that recall to the right inlet of that message. You like to patch backwards, don't you? All right. So something's going on where it's sending a float the last time. It's that pack. You have it going 0. That should be 0, 0, 0 with a period, and you have it 0 period, 0 period with a 0. So that last one needs to be a float. I think that'll fix it. Let's try it again. Yeah.
Can you explain? So like in the 0 period, comma 1 period.
This?
$sign, why is the comma necessary after the 0 but not after anything else?
Because if I wasn't to do that, if I wasn't to put that because line really only takes 2 argument messages, right? So it only wants to say, hey, go to this message, go to this number now, or go to this number in this many milliseconds, right? So we don't know if I don't reset that back to 0, if I went ahead and said 0 to 1 in 5,000 milliseconds, it would count to 1. And then the next time I said go to 1 in 5,000 milliseconds, it would already be at 1 and it wouldn't go anywhere. Does that make sense? We have to send it back to 0 first and then say go back to 1. So the 0 period, that sends it to 0 immediately. Comma specifies now there's a new message.
Okay.
And now go to 1 over this many seconds.
So it's actually 2 messages you're sending from a single message object?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
A comma is always sending 2 messages. First the one before the comma, then the one after the comma.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We could have also had this, could have done the same thing by saying trigger 0 or trigger, I don't know. You could have done with triggers. I don't want to go into I'll waste too much more time with that. Yeah. All right. What were we doing? We got this. And it's working. Okay. Now, so we got a go button. And the go button can step through queues. We can store our queues down here. What we can't do is make a queue list, right? Most times when you have a show, you want to be able to step through a queue list of queues. We can merge our use of Pattrstorage and call to provide that functionality. So call is really good at recalling simple values, right? So we can use we can use a call to give us what the next queue is, and then hit go, and then we're making the Pattrstorage actually execute that queue. Does that make sense? So we can use a call. So call. Let's at embed 1, so that it stores the queues with the file with the patcher. Okay, and then then what we can do is we can send it messages. Well, there's a bunch of different ways we could program this thing. I started to create a way of automatically doing it. I didn't get a chance to actually take a screen capture of that, so I have to look at my patch real quick. Or you can send it messages, remember, like this. So if I said, okay, my first queue is going to be going between 0 and 1 over 1,000 milliseconds. I can send that into the call, and then it's added that, right? And then I could go and I say, okay, my next queue is going from 1 to 2 in 4,000 milliseconds. I could do it this way. It'd be really tedious, right? You could also just leave this window open and just write your queues manually, saying, okay, my next queue is going to be going from 2 to 3 in 5,000 milliseconds, and make sure I put my commas and my semicolons where they need. And then make sure when you do this, if you're going to go back and work on your patch, that you close this window and you save it. Otherwise, if you leave it open and then you start changing things in the call here, and then you subsequently go back and close that window, it might overwrite what you had in the call with what was in that window. So just make sure if you're going to go back and forth that you close it, save it. So then I could, if I said, okay, my next queue is 1, I could have something like this. I could have this go button increment a counter. And here, I'll just do this. And whoops. Have this increment a counter and have that recall those queues. So I believe, let's see. And actually here, let's make sure we had 3 queues, right? So let's add a third queue. So 3 goes between 3 and 4. You're right, I don't have a 4. 6,000. And actually I think we need to store one more value in this. But let's see. Let me just leave it this way for a second. Oh, right. So now if I send this a 1, right, it gives me those numbers. I can hit the go, and that's now on Q1, and now it's on Q2. We need to plug those in, but you can see. All right, so yeah, we got to plug these in. So then we just need to unpack these. Jesus. Hello. There we go. Unpack. There's just 2 numbers there, right? 0, 0. I did this a little differently in my prep, but I think this is more efficient to do it this way. So let's see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll have to go back and change something. And these are actually these 2, right? The end queue and the transition time. The output of the counter is also the start queue, because we're putting the start queue as the same thing as the queue number that we're on, right? Let's just send that into an integer box so we can see it before. And send that into your start queue. We're going to want to go back to 0. Let's reset this counter. Just an easy way to do that is just delete it and then undo. That should set the counter back to 0. So now if I go, I'm saying go between 0 to 1 and 1,000. Now if and it did. Now it's going to go between 1 and 2 and 4,000. And now it goes between 2 and 3 and 5,000. And then it doesn't do anything because we don't have a Q4. Okay, is that working? What's a little unintuitive at this point is the whole storing of your queues in the call. There's a better way of doing that. I started developing that. I haven't taught a better way of doing that in the past, but I started developing it today, but I ran out of time. So let's move on to something else, and then if we have extra time, we can come back and look at that other system that I was working on. The other thing I want to do to this patch is we haven't hooked it up to video, so let's hook it up to video real quick and look at some of the issues that the interpolation might cause with video. So what do we have? Well, these objects are going to be what's controlling the video, right? We had an outlet on them, right? Let's go ahead and, what did we save this as? Save as 9.1. MVC controller. With 3 L's. Okay, and let's see here. Let's give ourselves some more room underneath this patcher. We're just going to hook up one video channel for right now. So just give yourself enough room under this one, under the first video slider, that you can patch some video objects, some movie player objects and stuff, such. All right, so we're going to need come on, where the hell is my notes? We're going to need, what are we going to need? We are going to need a movie player, jit.movie. We're going to need a Q Metro running at 30 hertz with a toggle to turn it on. We're going to need a jit.movie, jit.p window, just so that we can see this movie easily in our patcher. Let's go ahead on this jit.movie. Let's set the volume at 0 so that we don't have to worry about hearing movies with sound. So I believe all of the messages come out of this, right? So hook up a message to your B patcher, right? And let's take a look at what we structured our messages as. So this is the argument for the B patcher, right? I think we set that as CHA, and then an underscore, and then for the slider it's a mult, and that mult goes between 0 and 127. I think we're going to want to change that to a float going between 0 and 1, but it doesn't matter for right now. So that one's channel A underscore mult. Obviously, the movie player doesn't know anything about that. So we're not sending that. We don't want that message to go into the movie player, because the movie player would say, I don't know what mult means. I don't know what CHA mult means. We also have this, CHA file name, and then the file name. We do want that to go into the movie player, but it's still going to say, I don't know what CHA file name means. But the whole reason why we put that, same thing with rate. We want that to go in, but it doesn't. We don't. The movie player is not going to know what CHA rate means. But we put those in there so that we can route the messages to the correct movie player, right? Because we're going to have one movie player for each of these, or the correct value slider for fading it in and out, right? The mult. That's where we'd send the mult, is to for the fade. So we just need a routing system that can take commands specific for this movie player. Route, and then what was it? CHA underscore, and then what was it? We just care about the file name and the rate. File name, and then also CH, so that's a space, CHA underscore rate. Those were the two items, right? Let me take a look. Yeah, CHA underscore rate, CHA underscore mult, CHA underscore file name. All right, great. Pass that through this route object. And you should have, through this first outlet, file name. Without the word file name, it's taken that off of there and just given you the actual file name. If I change this mult up and down, or I change the rate, you'll notice that that doesn't change, right? And that's good because we want it to be routed to a specific thing, right? The next one will be the rate. So if I change a rate here, that goes to that second outlet of that route. The third outlet of the route would be anything else that it doesn't recognize. So in this case, it's the mult. Whoops. The mult, because that's not, we didn't put that in our route, so it doesn't. Or anything from any of the other. If I had passed this in here, any of these would come out that other outlet because it doesn't recognize it, right? We don't need to do that though. I was just showing you that. Just disconnect that for now. We're just going to work with the one channel for now. All right, so we could say, what message could we use to send this read message in the appropriate format to the jit.movie? Because look what is it outputting? It's outputting just the file name, right? So how could I take that message of the file name and create the message that the movie player needs to read that file? That's one way, yeah. Or you could say the other way is read $1. But yeah, let's do it Shay's way. That works fine.
I guess what's the difference?
There isn't.
Oh, all right.
It's style. It's serious. Serious. It's style. It's programming style. That's one of the major classifiers of programming style in Max is whether you use prepends or whether you use messages with $.
So what does that say about my zodiac sign that I want?
I don't know. Right, because now it says read blading.move. All right, so let's send that in to that.
My message is including the whole file directory.
Okay.
Is that a problem?
Probably not.
Cool.
Not as long as it's giving it a real thing.
Great.
Yeah. That must have been where you took or I don't know. I thought we did just collection on this U menu. You must have made your own or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. If you have more verbosity, shouldn't matter. All right. So that's file name and rate. What would we use to send the rate in the right message, in the right format to this movie player? Same thing, just different word.
Yeah, is it? Oh, it's rate. Okay.
Okay. Let's turn this on. Set your rate to 1. Choose a movie. Ah! It's not working. Why? Oh, I know why. Because I never hooked my JIT movie player to my P window. There we go. Okay. So if I change this now to blading, it should load blading, and it does. And if I change the rate, it should change the rate. Although rates don't like to interpolate. You don't want to interpolate your rate. If you slide this rate, the thing's just going to pause until you're done sliding, basically. And you can have negative rates too, I believe, and it'll go backwards. All right, let's see. Now we open up your client window and make sure we did. Yeah, we set our interpolation on file name and rate to none, so it shouldn't even interpolate this. It should just, as we step through our queues, it should go to the next movie. So let's go back to 0. Actually, here. Here, do this. Make a set $1. This will keep us from making a runaway recursive loop. and send this back up into the, oh wait, counter, never mind. Send this instead directly to, I believe, the one that says resets counter on next clock. I think we can use this to reset this counter to where it needs to be. Yeah, yes. No, that broke it. All right. Yeah, here, let's just frickin' do it manually. Just put a number up here, and it says resets to number immediately. It's the second to last outlet, and we'll just reset it this way. And when I get a chance, I'll show you guys the better code for dealing with this go button, probably next week. All right, so let's reset this to 0, and now it should go between 0 and 1. Yeah, and it is. But what the hell happened to our performance? See how everything's going and the video completely stops while it's doing it. Is your guys all doing that too? So that's no bueno. What's going on there? Well, it took me a long time to figure this out 3 years ago, but I did. And what it is actually it's this. Put a bang down here and attach them to your read and rate message. Now go ahead and run that queue again. See how they're going crazy the entire queue? That button will light up every time it gets a message. So it's sending a read message every single freaking millisecond that thing is interpolating. So that's not good. We don't want it to do that, right? So basically, Pattrstorage by default, if you are in Q0 and the value is 3, and you're in Q, then you want to go to Q1 and the value is 3, it doesn't change. As you're interpolating between 0 and 1, it's going to be sending a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, right? So in this case, it's saying read, 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 read. You know, whatever. That's not good. We want it to only send its output when it changes. There's a mode especially for that in Pattrstorage called at change mode. Was it even in the help file? Maybe that's why I didn't find it forever. Yeah, it's not even well documented in the help file. It's in the reference. But if you change this to at change mode, why can't I? Hold on. So I can see my drop down. At change mode 1, that will make it so that it doesn't do that. So that if something doesn't change, it doesn't output that value. So let's try this again now. So go back to Q0. And now as I step through, although I don't know, hold on, 0, 1, what happened? I think it's this counter nonsense. It's still messing me up. All right, whatever. I'm just going to disconnect the counter for now. 0 and 1 in 6 seconds. What happened to my queues? Maybe I stored over them. Let me take a look. Oh, I don't have any storage slots. So somehow all my queues went away. All right, well, let's make some new queues. I don't know what I did to make my queues move. Yours went away too? What did we? Oh, I know what we did. We added at change mode 1. So, and we never saved our queues before. So as soon as you change anything in the title of an object, that reinstantiates that object, so it wipes it out. So we gotta make some new queues real quick. All right, so let's make some new queues. Let's go back. Let's see. Here, let's just do it this way. Over here on our demo stuff. Go back to So let's start with everything down. Take all the sliders down. Leave your rates at 1. Unless you want to move them, that's fine. And change now. I'm going to change this to 0, and I'm going to store this as 0. Then I'm going to change my movie to something else. And actually, I'm just going to do this on the 1 channel since that's the only thing we're hooking up right now. And let's store this as 1. And now a different value as 2. And a different value as 3. Oh, but I never changed my movies. I'm going to change my movies and restore over that as 2. Oh, Jesus. Change the value, change the movie, and store this as 3. So now if I 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, all right, great. What is going on? All right, hold on. 0 to 1 in 6 seconds. All right, it's this counter keeps screwing me up. I'm going to disconnect the counter stuff. That didn't work right. There we go. All right. Okay. Now, what's going on? I thought I had fixed that. So it's still changing my movies in the middle of that queue as it's like stepping through the numbers, I think. Let's take a look. If I open up storage window, yeah, okay, so what's going on is this is at Q0 it was file number 6, and Q1 it's file number 1, so that was going 6, 5, 4, 3. We don't want it to do that. I think that's just a different method on this storage. Oh, this got reset. That would do it. So we need to now change where it says linear on file name, change that back to none. Rate, change that to none on all of these. Okay. Here, do this. Make a message, save. I believe it's just a save message. No, it's not. No, what is it? Thought it was saved. Storage. Right. And save your presets. You can just save it in the same directory as you saved this patch. That way, if we make any changes to this, we won't lose it again and have to redo it. I think there's also another option on this called @ Make sure you've written your changes before you make any edits to this. @ save mode 1, I believe, will automatically save your it will automatically save your Pattrstorage every time you make a change. All right, let me see. So now let's try this again. If I'm going to go between Q0 and 1, it doesn't change that value until it got to the next. It shouldn't change the movie until it gets to the next Q. So let's try that again. Let me make sure my Q0. Did I not? Oh, I might have lost my storage. Oh, I don't have a Q0 for some reason. Okay. Change your take the slider all the way. If you don't have a Q0, take your slider all the way down and change your movie to something else. Now over here, let's store this under 0. There we go. Now if I open my storage window, now I have a Q0. File name 10. Then the next one is file name 1. All right. So now this should. What the heck? I thought I just fixed that. Client window. Somehow that got changed. Damn it. None. No interpolation on these. Fifth time's a charm. Stays the same movie until it's done, and then goes to the next video. That's what it should do. Let's write that. Or here, change the message as write again, I believe, which will just overwrite it without prompting you what it is. All right, let's save this. I want to test something. I want to see if we close it and reopen it again, whether we still have all of our cues. So let's say we want 0 to 1 in 5 milliseconds. I don't think it worked. Wait, there was something there. There was no 0 cue for some reason. I thought I had stored a 0 cue. Maybe it doesn't want you to store a 0 cue. That would be really weird.
No, my poll is not sending
Did you should have disconnected your call anyway. That wasn't really working.
Oh.
Yeah. I have a better system of doing that, but I just haven't finished it. And yeah, the last 2 years I just did lip service on this and didn't actually go anywhere with it. Okay. So what happened? Is it working? Did it save our cues? I don't feel. I have a storage window. I have different values in there, so I think it saved something. But for whatever reason, it didn't seem to save my Q0. Let me try this one more time. Stored that as Q0, and if I look, I have a storage window with a Q0. If I write this now, and now delete it, undo, I should still have. I don't. So I guess it can't keep a Q0 in your Pattrstorage for some reason. That doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe I didn't do it right. Let's see. Store, write, save over, replace. I thought write again would automatically do that. Nope, I lost it again. Mine doesn't want to store a Q. It doesn't want to be able to maintain. You can store it and you can use it, but as soon as you save and reload your patch, that particular queue is gone. I hadn't noticed that before. That's new to me. So don't store a Q0. Apparently, start at Q1, and everything will be happy. Yep. That's really weird. Okay. Don't ever start at 0. Start at 1. All right. 1 to 2. Okay. What's next? It's only 2:11. This took a lot longer last time. Okay, so I guess the next thing we can do is start building the actual video engine for this. Yeah. Cool. All right. So save this. We're going to come back to this and fix it up. I'm definitely going to come back and fix up this go button crap because that's not working at all right now. But let's edit this B patch and make it a little bit better first. So open up your B patcher. I think we called it movie vowels. And we're going to want to add that file drop stuff. Open up, find your GUI video player. What was it? GUI video player. This. Bpatcher, and let's just steal it from that so we don't have to redo this part. This right here. All of these. Don't need the prepend read, but just the file, the drop file object, the title, the prepend prefix, and the U menu. Copy those, close it, and let's paste them in over here. Okay. Actually, we don't need this U menu. Get rid of the U menu. And patch the prepend prefix into this U menu up here. Okay, we're going to need some more room. So let's see. Let's drag this stuff down. You can take this panel and make it taller. Just getting mine up in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, then actually I'm going to move this down here and put the file drop above it. Drop file. And then I can actually go into the inspector for this and change the font color to white. It'll be a lot easier to read. And change it to text justification to center. All right, that's starting to look better. Okay, whoops. I should have rearranged these in presentation mode because now I got to rearrange them all again. Oh well, sorry. There, kind of. There we go, that's looking better. All right, whatever, I could spend a long time on this. I don't want to spend too much longer. So we got that. We have our prefix. That's passed to the file name. That's fine. All that should work. Let me make sure you have on this auto populates turned on. You can set the collection name to nothing. It should keep what's already in there. But you don't want it to have a specified collection because as soon as you drop a directory in there, you want it to overwrite with whatever you dropped in there. Cool. So, and let's go ahead and change this slider now. Go over here in the inspector and change this to float output with a range of 1. That'll just save us from having to do a bunch of scaling later. So that was float output with a range of 1
For the slider?
for the slider. Okay. You're fine? Okay. Great. Now, and let's go back into presentation. We didn't put a label on this. Let's put a rate label on this so that we know what it is. Oh, here, actually, just copy this one so that we don't have to specify the text color again. Okay, and save that. And now all of your bpatchers have updated, which is good. You'll probably have to resize them to be able to now fit in your screen. Just drag these through. There we go. All right. So we're basically going to take this code here and expand it for all the channels. We need a lot of routing to do that. What we can do in here, let's do it this way so that we don't have to, I think it'll save us a lot of time if we don't have to have a whole bunch of patch cords coming out of these. Let's have each one of these bpatchers send it with a like a UDP send or just a send object. Go back into your movie vals. And we'll leave the outlet in case we want to use that later, but let's also send it through a whatchamacallit, UDP send, and then UDP send, and then you have to put what host you're sending it to. We're going to be sending it to ourselves, so you can put localhost. Maybe, I don't know if you can do that on Windows. You might have to put 127.0.0.1 if localhost doesn't work. And then you have to put a port. Let's just choose a port. Let's choose 5,000. Let's just use 5 ones. 11111. And just send everything into that. Oh, here, do this. Yeah, actually, let's do that. So take this UDP send and cut it. Then go hover over the outlet, right click on it and say paste replace. And now we've replaced that with a UDP send. Yeah, we were, but I didn't want to go through the time to repatch everything. All right. Yeah. We can still make this functionality work. All we have to do is have a UDP receive with 5 ones and patch it back into this route here, and then everything should work the same way it was working. Yes, yes, good. Great. So now we're going to have our engine be a separate patcher. that's just running completely separately in the background behind this stuff. So let's make a new patcher. And we're going to, here, actually grab this stuff that we just did. Let's grab this stuff, because we're just going to start with this and then, actually grab everything over here. All this, including the QMetro and all that. Copy it and paste it in over here. Okay. All right, so what I think we should do is change a little bit how we're doing the routing here. I think we should route, so right now the way we're routing is routing for a single movie player. I think we should route first by file name, then for each movie player, then by rate for each movie player, then by mult for each movie player. It'll be, if you do it in that paradigm, your patch cords will be going in a much easier to understand way. But you could do it any way you want. You could just keep adding on route arguments to this route and send it wherever you want. But I think if we do it in a hierarchical manner, it will be better. So start with, change this route channel A file name. Actually, that's fine. Duplicate channel A file name, or the text here, copy that text. And then let's paste over where it says rate. And do that 4 times, and then just change the where it says CHA to CHB, CHC, and CHD. Okay, disconnect where this says prepend rate. Let's just take all this and, actually here, just take your route and move it over to the side here so that we have some room. Okay, now, so first thing that's going to happen is when it comes through this, it's first going to go through and says, are any of these arguments have CHA, CHB, CHC, or CHD file name? If it doesn't have one of those, it's going to come out this last outlet, right? That says input if the input doesn't match. So if it doesn't match one of those, it'll come out this. So then we can further route it from there. We can say route, and now we're going to route for rate. CHA underscore rate. And now just copy that and paste it 4 times with the space in between. And then change your things so that it's CHB, CHD, and CHA, whatever. CHB, CHC, CHD. So then patch that through. Then it'll come out for each of those for that step. And then if it's not one of those, the only other one I believe is mult. So duplicate this route, patch it into the thing. Now just change where it says rate to mult on each of these. Okay?
Would the order of these matter?
No. Unless, but yeah, so it would, messages coming from the UDP receive would first be routed by file name, then be routed by rate, then be routed by the multiplication, if that order mattered to you. I think in our case, that order doesn't really matter because everything's going to happen so fast that you're not going to tell any difference between the orders. But there could be a situation where it would matter. All right. So then, there it is. We need to just make a movie player. And we could have a whole bunch of this crap all over the place. One for each movie, right? But I think in order to save us some screen real estate, let's encapsulate this stuff. So make a subpatch called P movie playback. And in this movie playback, we just need a jit.movie at volume 0 jit.movie. And and say at unique 1 also. That'll give us a little bit better performance. Then we can take have an inlet, and we're going to need 3 inlets. So just duplicate that twice more. We can say that the first inlet for this subpatch is going to be the bangs that are going to drive this movie player. The second one will be for read messages. So let's say, what do we want to do? Do we want to do a prepend or do we want to do a message? Let's do a message this time. Read $1.
Prepend just make more sense to me.
Okay, you can do a prepend. And then this one here, let's mix. Let's mix our metaphors. We'll do a prepend over here. Rate. All right. And then just pass this out an outlet. Simple little player like that. Okay. We actually now don't need this stuff. Let's see, we can get rid of this. We're still going to need the P window, but we don't need the JIT movie player. All right. And now we can have our QMetro 30. We want to have this a load mess 1 so that this toggle will automatically turn on when the patch is loaded, because we want our engine to always be ready to go. And then we want to send the bangs from these the bangs from this QMetro to each of the movie players. In my notes, I have it done in sequence. I don't know that it really needs. We could probably just patch directly to each of these, but there might be a reason. Let me just trust my notes for now. So trigger, bang, 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 right? So that will send the bangs from this metro to each of the movie players 1 at a time instead of all at the same time. Don't think it really matters though. All right, then let's see, we just have 4 of these movie playback patches. Okay, the first inlet for each of these patches was the bang coming out of this trigger. The second one was for the file name, so channel A file name goes there, channel B file name goes there, channel C file name goes there, channel D file name goes here. We can make those look nice. Do this, I think it'll be even more clear. Okay, and patch up everything else. Patch up your rates now. Rates go in here. Okay, now mults needs to go into a jit.op, Well, here, let's say it's a JIT.multiply. You could say, and this is the way we did it before, we could say JIT.op at op multiply, but there's an easier way to do that where you just say JIT.multiply. Okay, so we're going to need 4 of these, and those are going to be the output of your mults should be attached to the right inlet on these JIT.multiply, because that's going to be setting what we're multiplying the matrix by. So if your slider was down all the way, you would be multiplying it by 0, so all your pixels would be black. If it was up all the way, you'd be multiplying it by 1, so all your pixels would be whatever color they're supposed to be. Or whatever value they're supposed to be, I should say. Then we just need to take the matrices from all of these movies. We could have a bunch of ugly lines going over here. I think it would be a little bit difficult to patch nicely. Let's just use some sends. Have this be a send CHA underscore matrix. And let's duplicate that 4 times. And just make those be channel B, C, and D. All right, so we're taking the output of these movie players and patching them into these matrix sends. Okay. So let me see if I can rearrange these and make it a little clearer where things are going. There we go, that's better. Okay, and now we have these matrix sends. We'll just receive them over here by the JIT dot whatever. So I'm going to copy them, paste them, move them over here by the JIT dot multiply, and change the sends to receives. And now you can patch these into the other inlet of the JIT.multiplies. The first inlet of the JIT.multiplies. Okay, and then we can say, oh, where was that? I don't want to write it again. What was it? Oh well, I guess I'll just write it again. We're going to do that plus expression. Maybe you can steal it from the help file, I think. JIT.expra. Go to I thought there was one on here already. Oh well. So we could either do a bunch of JIT.pluses like we did before when we were... Is that 4-channel mixer that we turned in the other day, right? What was that patch called? 4-channel mixer here. Oh, so this is what we did before. We had the ops with pluses, but I thought we did one where we had a JIT.expression. Yeah, whatever. Let's just use the JIT.pluses. I don't want to bother with the expression right now. We could reconstruct the expression that will allow us to take 4 different inputs. Oh, but we, Jesus Christ. All right. What is it? No, I want to do the expression. Sorry. Otherwise, we'll just have a whole bunch of those. All right. What was it again? I can't remember the syntax. It's in0 plus in1 plus in2 plus in3 plus in4. So it's in bracket 0 end bracket, close bracket, plus, copy that, paste it in 4 times. And now change these to 0, 1, 2, and 3. That. We also have to say at inputs 4. Okay. Now I remember why this order is important. Because this JIT expression only outputs when the first one gets its bang, and the way we have this set up is that that one gets its bang last. Or no, actually it doesn't. We should switch these around. It's not really going to matter though. All right, so then just pass these into this. And you can send it either into this JIT-P window, but actually let's send it into a real JIT.window because we're going to have this not as the application. This isn't going to be the patch that we're looking at when we're working with this. So just call it a JIT.window. You can give it a name if you want. Let's call it a JIT.window MVC mixer. Okay. And save this as 9.2. Actually, call it 9.1 engine because it's actually part of this. It's you need both of them to have a working system. All right. So that's saved. Make sure your QMetro is turned on. And now open up the patch we were working with before, the controller.
Can you go back into that one?
Hmm?
Can you go back into the other with the one where you're just in the engine?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This should now, if we go ahead and reload a movie into this, it should load, although I don't see it. Did we ever receive? Where's that? Maybe I forgot to receive. No, I received it. Did I not receive that? Let's check it out. I should have, when I sent this movie, I should have received it on the other end. I did. Why don't I see anything? Well, let's figure it out. Let's take this matrix. Oh, because my molts are at 0. No, I still don't see it. All right, we'll figure out what's going on. You guys don't see yours either, right? When you put something in here and you turn your molt, change the value on your molt all the way, have your rate at 1, you should see something in your MVC mixer window. I don't. I need to figure out why. Did anybody see anything? No? Okay, good. We're all on the same page. Let's figure this out.
Where does the thing that's built live?
It runs in the background as an engine app. So in a model view controller, you usually will do that. You'll have an engine that's running in the background because you can assign you can assign, if you build this as a separate application, you can have the engine have its own allocated memory, so you get more video memory that way.
How do we get information to it? Where-
Through the
where-
UDP receive.
Where do we put the send?
On our UDP send was inside of these windows, I believe, right? Open recent patch. They're in our movie vals.
Okay.
Okay. So what the heck happened? I need to go into my engine and see why this isn't playing. First thing I can do is actually just take the matrix directly. This isn't the engine. This is the old thing. Go away. I don't need this. That's not the engine either. First thing is, I don't need that anymore. Don't save. There it is. Let me take the actual matrix coming from this movie playback and just attach it to a P window and see if there's anything there. Yes. So something just isn't working on our this over here, on our mixer. I probably screwed that up somehow. Well, let me see. So now I can take this P window and attach it different places and see what's happening to the video. So after the multiplication, I still have video, but I believe it goes away as soon as I have coming out of the jit.expression. So my jit.expression isn't working right for some reason. In 0 plus in 1. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Maybe it needs, does it need a metro? I don't think so. No. In 0 plus in, wait, here it is. In 0 plus in 1 plus in 2 plus in 3 at inputs 4. That's what I have. I don't know. That is really stumping me. That should be outputting video right now, but it's not. Let me just do it the old school way. Jit.plus. Take these two and plus them together. Output, does that have video? Yes. Then another plus, and take 3 and 4 and plus those together. Whatever, we'll do it the old school way. I'll figure out what happened, and when we touch on this again next week, I'll probably have that fixed, I hope. Now one more jit.plus, we just need 3 pluses to be able to mix 4 channels. And add these results together and pass that into output, and there I have video. So now I can just go ahead and pass that into my window. Shouldn't need this anymore. My window now has video in it. Okay. Save the engine. You can, don't close it, just minimize it. Now I'm able to fade out and fade in. I'm able to change my video to a different video. I should be able to change the rate. Yep. Are your guys all working too? That wasn't rhetorical. Is your guys working? Is anybody's not working? All right. What do you want to see? The engine? Okay. That's pretty much it for the rest of the class. I'll walk around and give you guys help individually. Let me just check in. So I believe the homework is there's tutorials that I'm going to collect next week, so make sure you have them done. That's tutorials. Tutorials 30 through 40. And that's jitter tutorials 30 through 40, and that's where you're going to get into doing texture-based video, which is going to be really exciting next week. All right, I'll go around and help you guys out. What happened to my recording? Oh, it's still there.